Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, December 6th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Peach Bowl against Georgia is in 25 days, the game against Michigan in 354 days. The Buckeyes got some very bad news on Monday as wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba was officially ruled out for the Peach Bowl. The official statement from Ohio State said that JSN, quote, will not play in the 2022 Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. The junior from Rockwall, Texas will instead continue to rehabilitate a season-long injury while also preparing for the 2023 NFL Draft. Head coach Ryan Day was quoted as saying, I want to thank Jaxon for all he has done for our Ohio State program. He's had such a major impact here in Columbus on and off the field in a relatively short period of time. We all know he has a very bright future ahead of him, and we all support him as he moves forward with his career. So that's one potential storyline for the game down. And then about 15 minutes after the Jaxon Smith-Njigba news broke, a report out of Tulsa that the Tulsa Golden Hurricane are apparently set to hire Ohio State offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson as their new head coach. Pete Thamel of ESPN reported the news, confirmed the news a little later on in the afternoon. So that is expected to happen as of the time I'm recording this. It's not official, but it sure sounds pretty close to official. So then we will have to talk. We're going to be talking to the Buckeyes on Tuesday and find out a little more on how that will all go. I would anticipate that Kevin Wilson will stay at Ohio State through the Peach Bowl and potentially the national championship game and not leave immediately. But that is all, again, sort of breaking news as we're talking about that here. So those are two big storylines that you need to know about that came on Monday. If you want to hear much more about those, Kevin Noon and I hopped on the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed and dropped basically an hour talking about those two stories, the implications, the fallout, what might be next in terms of the staff, all that kind of stuff. So you can find that all in the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed, and of course also at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. So, all right, so that's two storylines down. Now, the matchup with Georgia. Hey, that's also kind of important. It has given a lot of people a lot of stuff to talk about, including Ryan Day. On today's episode, we're going to be hearing directly from Day about the Bulldogs, the opportunity his team has ahead of it, where they are mentally, and much more. These were interviews we recorded before the Jaxon Smith-Njigba news broke, before the Kevin Wilson news broke, so you're not going to be hearing anything about that. But you're going to be hearing about all sorts of other stuff. And we're going to start with the emotional swing the team has had over the past week and a half. Entering the Michigan game with everything on the line, to feeling like they had missed their chance to hit any of their goals, and now being just 2 wins away from a national championship. So was it a challenge for them to get the guys back up after the disappointment of the Michigan game?
Oh, I mean, today there was just so much energy in the Woody. You could feel it when you walked in early on. We had a team meeting before the selection and had a staff meeting before and just talked about what the possibilities would be. And then when you saw the name come up, there was just a shot of adrenaline in the whole building. So the goal was to be in the CFP at this point. That was it when you started the season. Here we are. Strange way to get here, but that's it at the end of the day. So it's a new season, and you learn from the past. And there's been precedents on this. You look last year. Georgia, lost to Alabama in the SEC championship. I think it was 41-24, and then went on to win the whole thing. So now it's just a matter of what we do moving forward. Certainly, the game at the end of the year is going to be in the back of our minds as motivation, but now it's just all about maximizing this month.
There was a lot of talk in the wake of the loss to Michigan about the legacy of C.J. Stroud and the legacy of Ryan Day, sort of by proxy. But, is this an opportunity now for C.J. Stroud to change the way people view him if they can put on a good performance against Georgia and potentially advance to the national championship game?
I think this whole thing is an unbelievable opportunity. You just never know how these years are going to go, and here we are. And this opportunity wasn't available a few days ago, wasn't available yesterday, but it is now. And I think that's the thing as you look into last week, everyone's just dying to have this opportunity to have a shot to go win this. And now we do. And so whoever it is, the whole team wants that opportunity. And life's all about that. So what are we going to do with it? That's the challenge here this next month.
The Buckeyes obviously did not get the result they were looking for in the Michigan game. So what does Day think they need to change about their approach to get a different result this time?
Well, we've been, in this CFP 3 of the last 4 years, so we have a pretty good plan, I think, for this month. We start off really working on fundamentals. We put 2 practices in last week, talking about this being in this very situation. Don't wake up on Sunday morning and be surprised if you have an opportunity to go play for a national championship. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves, but we needed help, and we got help. So put 2 good practices in last week, and then it all came together this weekend, and so here we are. I think we did a really good job in 2000 of getting ready to play in that Clemson game. We'll use that same formula as we prepare for this game, but I think the fundamentals is the first part we got to really hammer in the first week or so, and then it's game plan, and we try to do as much as we can here on campus, and then we get on site down in Atlanta and go through a game week preparation. So, certainly looking back on the last game, we just had too many explosive plays, and so as coaches, you got to make sure you're looking at, are you putting your players in position to be successful? That's it. And then if not, then why isn't that getting done? And so, a lot of looking in the mirror last week and figuring out why that didn't happen. And so, at the end of the day, it comes down to accountability and ownership, and it starts with me. And then it goes right to the coaches, then on to the players. And, it's easy to point the finger at somebody else or what's the reason why. And what you have to do is take a hard look in the mirror and figure out why that is. And so there was a lot of those great conversations that happened last week, as hard as they were, but we'll find out if we can come out of this thing stronger.
Of course, the game with Georgia is not the only potential game looming on the horizon here for the Buckeyes. They could, with a win over Georgia, also get another crack at Michigan. So what would it mean to have a rematch against the Wolverines with the national title on the line?
You don't want to get ahead of yourself, but that would be unbelievable, right? I mean, it would be historic to have that opportunity. And to say that we haven't thought about that, of course we have. Everybody's thought about that. But the draw that we have is we got to go down to Georgia and play the defending national championships in Atlanta, which is, if someone said that at the beginning of the year, you get to go play the defending national champs in Georgia. Let's go do it. You got to go play those guys in order to go play for a national championship. So that's where our focus is going to go, and then we'll go from there. They're a very good team. Kirby's obviously done a great job, and especially really breaking that threshold last year on the national championship. That's something that got a lot of respect for. He did that. That was a long time coming there, and he did it. And hats off to him. And then they came back this year really playing well and did a good job working through the whole season undefeated. Played really good in the SEC championship game, and they have a lot of weapons, and they're very well coached. So big challenge for everybody across the board, but something that going into the season, we knew we were going to be in the situation to go play for it all. Georgia was going to be in the way, and so however we got here, we're here, and now it's time to go to work.
The Buckeyes are not underdogs very often. The early lines on this were Georgia by 6.5, give or take. So this is only going to be the fourth time that Ryan Day has led the Ohio State Buckeyes out on the field as an underdog against their opponent. So is that something that gives you the opportunity to maybe play a little looser and with nothing to lose?
Maybe we'll have to see as the week goes on and as the month goes. But it all just happened really fast here in the last 7 days. So get our feet underneath us and go to work. But I don't know how many people are going to give us a chance in this game. We'll have to see. But it really is just about the guys in the Woody right now and their mindset as they go on this journey here this month. But it'll be something that will be unique to this year. We haven't been in that situation.
Last week was a sort of unusual time for the Buckeyes. Almost never do they have a week where they don't know what's going to happen next. Normally they're in the Big Ten championship game and they know what's next, or they know more or less which bowl game they're to go into and who they're likely to play. Last week, it was just sort of all one big question mark. So was that sort of an opportunity for them to be able to really focus on themselves, do some self-scouting, and not even have the opportunity to look ahead to an opponent? So is that kind of a positive in a way?
No, we wanted to be playing the Big Ten championship game, and that hurt. So no, it was not a good week. It was an awful week. But we did a lot of that. We looked at self-scout. We looked at Georgia. We looked at up north. Even got ahead on the game plans on those. Just that if we're in this situation, let's not be a week behind. We worked pretty hard on that in all three of those areas, and so it was good to take a hard look at everything that went on this season and figure out where we need to be as we head into this stretch here in December.
We mentioned earlier some of the emotional swings that this team has gone through over the last week or so, and after they got the news that they had in fact made the college football playoff and the opportunity to win the national championship was still on the table, do you let the team celebrate that? Was there sort of a celebratory atmosphere, or was it just kind of right down to work, shift to game prep right away?
I think you just hit it on both ends. That this is an opportunity that we didn't have just 48 hours ago, and now we do. So what do you want to do with it? And the team that prepares the most, the team that maximizes each day as we head into December 31st, the team that's going to win. That's it, and we can control it. Yesterday we were not in control, and now we are. And that's going to be the challenge. So it was super exciting for our guys. There was no target yesterday. We like you said, we had no nothing to focus on. And then the minute you see your name pop up on that screen, now you got something to work towards. And certainly that was really invigorating for the whole program and exciting.
Ryan Day talked earlier in the weekend about just playing loose, playing aggressive, and the fact that they need to do that more in the college football playoff, maybe not play so conservatively. So what does that mean to him? And is that something that he thinks they maybe didn't do against Michigan?
When it all gets taken away from you, it makes you just kind of, sit there and realize, that, you're going to have one shot to go play Georgia, whoever team you play, and that we just got to let it all out and let it go. And, there'll be no fear of failure. We're going to go play as hard as we possibly can and be aggressive. But that's the way that we've done it here, and so, but when it almost all gets taken away from you, it's a stark reminder that, you got to make sure that's how you're playing your game. And that's the way that we're going to attack this month.
Ryan Day has talked since the day he was hired about the pressure to win at Ohio State. And this is not a big surprise, but the expectation is you win all your games and you beat Michigan and you win the Big Ten and you win the national championship sometimes. That is sort of the expectation at this job. So how does he feel about the chance to now get a chance to hit some of those goals, to play for a national championship, even after losing to Michigan?
It's an opportunity that, that you weren't guaranteed, and now you have it. And so what are we going to do with it? That's all I keep thinking about, is that this is an opportunity that wasn't guaranteed, and now we do have it. So let's go do it. And certainly a lot of people counted us out, and here we are. So I kind of like being in this role, but now we got to go do something with it. Doesn't mean anything if we don't do anything. Just being upset or having a second opportunity is not going to mean anything if we don't do anything with it. But what an unbelievable chance. Go do something real special.
The Buckeyes are huge favorites in most of the games that they play. They are almost always favored by 3-4 touchdowns in the majority of non-conference and even Big Ten conference games, outside of a few games against really top opposition. So to be an underdog in this game, Urban Meyer seemingly always won as an underdog when he was the coach at Ohio State. Does that underdog mindset give you sort of a different vibe around the building?
I think we'll see as the month goes on, but I hear what you're saying. And they're a very, very good team. They're defending national champs. They just put 50 on LSU in the SEC championship game. They're a very good team, and so we're going to have to be on our game. We have to play really good, and so we'll see as the preparation goes. But these guys obviously are going to have our guys' attention in a big way, and they know how they have to play in order to win this game. But I mean, how fun is this going to be to go play down there? I mean, with a team that's just had it all taken away from them, and now they have an opportunity again. So. Just excited to get to work here.
The emotional swing from last week to this week had to be pretty jarring within the program. I mean, how do you flip the page from what had to be a pretty solemn week last week to now, hey, you are 3 weeks and a little change away from playing for a spot in the national championship game?
Well, we talked about it midweek when we went out to practice, and a couple guys, and, we talked to the team about, if this happens over the weekend, don't wake up again on Sunday and be like surprised that this is happening. Like this is going to happen, and we're going to have an opportunity. And when that opportunity comes, we got to be ready to roll. And it's all kind of happened the way that we thought it would. And so now we just got to go run with it and go do it. And again, I keep saying opportunity because if you think about what could be, boy, what an amazing story this could be. But I think our guys understand that. They know what happened, and they know what could happen. So. At the the goal was to be in this situation, not fourth, not whatever, but not to lose that game, but to be in the CFP. We're in the CFP. We're 2 games away from winning the national championship, and that's the mindset of our guys.
In his post-game press conference after that loss to Michigan, Day was pretty forlorn, pretty sad, pretty little quiet. But one thing he did say was, listen, if they get into the college football playoff, he thought they would still be a dangerous team. Well, here they are. They're in the college football playoff. So does he still feel like that? And how big of a benefit is it for them to have already played in the college football playoff a couple times in recent years and sort of know what they're getting into?
Again, being there, we know what it's like. But I think we're dangerous because, you see us in all 3 phases at certainly a good portion of the season playing at a high level, more explosive on offense. We've been really opportunistic on defense and had some really good games there. certainly winning, on the road at Penn State was a really strong win. And in the end, that's probably put us in that spot because, getting a double-digit win on the road and really what turned out to be one of the top divisions in the country, right? I mean, you had 3 teams in the top 7. And so when you look at all that, and not playing our best football in the last game, yeah, that makes us dangerous.
Well, last week, the Buckeyes did not just completely sit around and do nothing. They had a couple practices, and they didn't know what was next, but they knew they had to get back on the field because they knew there was a next game, regardless of who it was going to be against or where it was going to be. So how did those practices go?
It was very focused. And I thought guys really did a nice job of being locked in. I really did. And I thought we came out swinging pretty hard, and then a couple plays here and there, obviously, with the explosive plays, and then getting ourselves out of rhythm there in the third quarter cost us the game. And certainly hated the way it ended with those couple long runs. I mean, that just ruined the whole day, really. But because it's in 7 minutes to go, it's an 8-point game, and if you just keep swinging, but it didn't happen. So was obviously very disappointed with that. But there was still a lot of good things that happened. It wasn't like, you watch the film and you're like, geez, we just got completely outmatched. It was just a lack of execution, too many big plays.
I think Ohio State fans got a better appreciation for the Utah football program at the Rose Bowl last year. Kyle Whittingham's team, not exactly loaded with 5 stars the way the Buckeyes are, but man, do they play their butts off, and they are just a miserable team to have to play against. Ohio State escaped with a very close, very dramatic win last year in the Rose Bowl. And then Kyle Whittingham, well, he did Brian Day a solid last Friday night in Las Vegas. They thumped USC and got the Buckeyes into the college football playoff field. Did Brian Day send Kyle Whittingham a little thank you gift in the mail?
Yeah, nothing yet, but we'll see how it goes. But I will say, unbelievable amount of respect for what he's done and going up against them last year in the Rose Bowl and how what a pro he is. And then to see them play the way that they did in that game doesn't surprise me because of what they've built there and how they do it. And really happy to see them win their conference championship again and go back to the Rose Bowl. And really job well done.
The margin of defeat for Ohio State against Michigan was one of the really big talking points all weekend in terms of the Buckeyes' resume coming into the college football playoff, and could have been something that kept them out. And that margin of defeat, that came down to all big plays in the air, big plays on the ground that the Wolverines kept rolling up against Ohio State. So was there an overriding issue causing all of those breakdowns in that game?
Like anything, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, I mean, it's a combination of things, You always feel like as a play caller in all 3 phases that you can put your guys in better situations. That's our job as coaches, is to put them in better situations. So that's the first thing you always look at. And could we put our players in better situations? Yes, we could. Can we execute better? Yes. And so it was a little bit of both. Certainly on the zero blitz there, the ball came out and I didn't quite make that play, and there was a couple shots down the field, and really in the first half there was those 2 passes that got away from us. But that's in matchup games like that, it comes down to 1 or 2 plays. It ended up being 4 or 5. And then on offense, we shot ourselves in the foot with some penalties. And again, looking at some calls you'd like to have back, some things we didn't, a couple false starts, got us out of rhythm a little bit. Got to do a better job on third down. So, I mean, there's a litany of things that we identified that we have to do a better job of.
Those big plays have to be a concern. They gave up 5 plays of 45 yards or longer against Michigan. And now they have to play Georgia, and Georgia can be a big play offense at times as well. So how important is it to get all that stuff fixed before the Peach Bowl?
I think when you look at the CFP, and I don't know where it was based off of last year, but I think the winning team usually scores, 49 to 50 points. So, we're going to have to play well on offense. Like you said, everything's going to have to be on point. Execution's going to have to be on point. Game plan will have to be on point. And, I think about the game we played against Clemson. I think we had 49 or something like that. So, you're going to have to score points against a team like this, that's for sure.
We've talked about the emotional swings of the last 10 days or so. How tough was it for Ryan Day Saturday night after that Michigan game? What was that like? And then when did he sort of mentally start to turn the page to, okay, you lost to Michigan, you're not winning the Big Ten, but you could still maybe make the college football playoffs? And where did he watch that game get between USC and Utah?
Now, you can imagine what that was like, or maybe you can't, but yeah, it was awful. Rather not get into it, but yeah, it was a bad week. But I went back out on the road recruiting, and then that night I was doing a home visit in Cincinnati. Drove from Cincinnati to Columbus for the first half, and then made it home and watched the rest at the house. Yeah, I mean it takes a couple days to get there and figure out what's next, but. As you start to get towards, Monday, Tuesday, and, get the guys together and say, okay, what's the plan for this week? All right, we got to identify what went wrong, but then, okay, what are we doing moving forward? And that's why we decided to have a team meeting and a practice on Wednesday and then on Thursday and get out there and say, guys, we're playing, in a game here in the CFP. So we got to keep our edge. I think that's important. I think once you get into a whole week of doing nothing, you can kind of get into that off-season mode, and you get a little lazy, a little sloppy, and we didn't do that. We kept our body weights up. We got back on the field, got to work with no guarantee of anything. But the guys went out there and had a really good practice on Thursday and said, if we make this thing, then we know we have this in the back pocket, kept our edge, and now we'll go back out there on Tuesday this week and get back to work.
We talked earlier about Ryan Day having the opportunity to maybe be a little more aggressive as an underdog role against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Does he think he was maybe too timid in his play calling against Michigan?
No, I mean, listen, you look at everything and, you try to go back and figure out what went wrong. You know what I'm saying? So, there's certain things that you want to have back always, and then there's a lot of areas that you got to, look at and figure out how you can do it better. That's the bottom line.
Ryan Day has not lost much as Ohio State's coach, but one very consistent theme in those losses is the offense just scores in the 20s. You see them hang up 50 points and 60 points against inferior teams in wins. But when they lose, it's 21 points, 23 points, 27 points, 28 points. It's all right in that same range. So what has been the challenge for the offense in those big games where they just keep getting stuck in the 20s?
Well, I think it's just that we talked about is, in these big games, whether it's a CFP or in a game like that, typically the team that wins is north of 40 points. And so, that's kind of the goal. And if we're not getting that and scoring at that rate, then we put ourselves at risk of on offense relying on the defense, which, that's okay too, is to rely on your defense. And I think, defensively we got to play better. But the offensive mindset has to be that you need to be in that 40 to 50 range to go win these games.
This year, for the first time since the college football playoff expanded to 4 teams in 2014, there are multiple teams from the Big Ten in the field. So what does it say about the Big Ten to have 2 of the 4 teams in the college football playoff field this year?
3 teams in the Big Ten East in the top, 7? I think Penn State ended up 7. So, and I think they had a great year, and did some really good things. So I think it's great for the Big Ten. I think it was, it's the whole Big Ten conference this year is hard. And we play 9 conference games. So when you look at the number of wins in the conference, there's going to be one more loss on everybody's record, obviously one more win, but that's a challenge. And then, playing a 10th game is also part of it too. When, you have a non-conference opponent like Penn State had Auburn, we had Notre Dame. I mean, that all matters, and so, the gauntlet of that at the end of the season, I think makes us strong, but great to see the Big Ten have 2 teams here in the CFP.
It is obviously a very big deal for Ohio State to be in the college football playoff field. Of course, they also have a pretty big challenge looming ahead of them. All they have to do to get to the final is, beat the defending national champion, be the unbeaten number 1 seed, and do it in their home state. How hard could that be, right? What comes to mind when Ryan Day thinks about the Georgia football program and what it stands for?
Well, it comes to mind is, very, like you said, a lot of talent, a lot of good players, but very well coached too, in both offense and defense. Kirby's done a great job. He's got a really good staff there, and Coach Munkin's done a really good job on offense this season. And they, like you said, they play with those 2 tight ends that put you in stress in different areas, and they run the ball and they're physical, but they do a great job. And Bennett really runs the whole thing. So big challenge. That's why they're defending champs and undefeated this season.
Well, we are headed into what could be one of the craziest months in Ohio State history. Early signing day is just a few weeks away. Multiple current Ohio State commits were visiting other schools over the weekend. The Buckeyes are working to flip multiple very highly ranked prospects away from other schools. Plus, the transfer portal window just opened on Monday and will run through January 18th. Already, Ohio State safety Jalen Johnson is in the transfer portal. Quite possibly more players will join him at some point between now and January 18th. It is already starting to get nuts there nationally, as players from teams who are not in the college football playoff have been flooding in there already on day 1. Buckeyes may end up bringing in and losing a number of players there once their season is over. Oh, yes. By the way, Ohio State is playing in the college football playoff against Georgia, with the possibility of facing Michigan in the national championship game after that. This seems like a really good time when it might be good to have access to a team of insiders to keep you up to speed on everything going on, doesn't it? Well, lucky for you, Buckeye Huddle has everything you want on all of those fronts and more. Our team of recruiting analysts, Mark Givler, Alex Gleitman, absolutely delivering the goods right now on our Huddle board on all the rumors, all the reports, sorting the fact from the fiction for you. There's going to be a lot going on between now and early signing day. Kevin Noon, Tony Gerderman, and I will be all over the team coverage in the next month. Lots of reports, lots of press conferences, lots of interviews, lots of everything. And of course, our team of X's and O's gurus will be breaking down everything there is to know about Georgia, everything there is to know about what Ohio State needs to do differently than what they did during the season, and what they can expect from the Bulldogs in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve in Atlanta. You should sign up today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Get access to a full team of insiders, great coverage on every angle for Ohio State football during one of the most eventful months in Ohio State program history. Should be a good time, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.